All right, count them, folks. 10 fingers. For the 10th time, a funding bill to reopen the government failed to pass in the Senate as Republicans could not get more Democrats to sign on to get the lights back on in Washington, D.C. So the Senate also voted down a separate measure to fund the military. Now, that means the shutdown will drag on through the weekend and into next week. So let's talk about the impacts on Americans. A conversation with the president of the National Treasury Employees Union, Doreen Greenwald, along with CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion. Nikole, let's start with you, my friend. The Senate adjourned. Lawmakers, they've left town, we understand. So why did they go home, and how does this shape the week ahead for you?
Well, as you mentioned, it just means that this shutdown lingers and continues for several more days until the Senate returns next week. But look, there is frustration on both sides of the aisle. Many rank and file senators that I talked to say, you know, folks just need to get into a room and work this out. At the same time, you talk to somebody like Leader John Thune, who says, look, we've already had 10 votes. You know, how many more votes can we have? So there is some frustration that the ball isn't moving here. And of course, you have Leader Schumer, who is equally frustrated that Republicans won't come to the negotiating table on this issue of health care. So because of that, both sides are dug in. I actually spoke with Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski to get her sentiments on this latest stalemate.
Why don't you think either side can get into a room together?
Because I think both sides think that there is political advantage for them sticking with the positions that they have. And until such time as they think that they actually might be slipping a little bit, I don't think we have the incentive.
And do you think it makes sense to leave this weekend?
No.
Are you staying here?
No.
Now, just to be clear, Senator Murkowski said part of the reason she is not staying here is because of a flooding emergency in her home state due to a typhoon. And so she is working with people on the ground to help them find food and shelter. And so she said that's kind of where her energies are focused in this moment, because she said right now this is really just about messaging as far as the shutdown is concerned. So she feels like I'm probably better used back at home to deal with this emergency. But that being said, you know, lawmakers hope to come back with a fresher perspective. Leader Thune has indicated he may put a bill on the floor as soon as next week to at least pay some of these federal workers who are required to work during the shutdown. So that is his next strategy going forward as we continue this impasse.
Well, Nikole, there's also that business in the House as Arizona Representative-elect and Democrat Adelita Grijalva has still not been sworn in. Could that happen today?
Well, that is certainly the hope among Democrats. You have Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who has sent a letter to Speaker Mike Johnson demanding that Representative-elect Grijalva is sworn in today during a pro forma session, which is typically more of a ceremonial session here in the House. But Speaker Mike Johnson has made clear that, you know, he will do this once the House is back in session, once the government reopens. So we know Arizona's Attorney General has threatened a lawsuit potentially if the speaker doesn't seat Grijalva, and even Jeffries alluded to that today, suggesting that there could be swift and decisive action if the speaker does not seat Grijalva by today. So we'll see how things play out.
All right, Nikole Killion, thank you so much for that coverage. So let's talk about the impacts of people here in the United States. They're going into the weekend. They're worried about their paychecks. They're worried about their jobs. Live now to the president of the National Treasury Employees Union, Doreen Greenwald. Doreen, nice to have you with us to have this conversation on CBS News 24/7. Your union is hearing from federal workers across more than 30 departments and agencies. What's their voice on the stalemate?
They want to see lawmakers come together and get a deal done. As you said, this is day 17 of a shutdown. So many of my members are reporting to work and getting the critical services done for the American people, whether some are getting paid through alternative funding, but most are not getting paid. And many have been locked out and not getting paid. And so they don't know when their next paycheck will come. And they're trying to figure out, how do I get the work done while also caring for myself and my family?
Well, and we know that one of the big sticking points, if not the big sticking point here, is Democrats are digging in their heels on health care funding, and that seems to be the real reason, the crux of the impasse here. Does your union have a position on that issue in particular? that Democrats can hear?
We don't take a political position. What we ask is lawmakers to come together. Obviously, both parties must work together to achieve a budget. This is nothing new with the an administration. Federal employees need to work. They've been put in jobs to do the incredible, important work of this country, and they need to be paid for doing that. And so we need a budget in place to do it. And right now, they feel like political pawns being used by both sides of the aisle to make political points instead of solving the problem. Blame doesn't solve anything. What we need is real solutions and action. And our folks are ready to work. Those who are coming in every day are doing great work on behalf of the American people. They deserve to be paid. Everybody deserves to be paid, and get this behind us.
Doreen Greenwald, we appreciate you so much. And while lawmakers decide how to divvy up the cheese, we can see right there behind you, you're a cheesehead with the Green Bay Packers. We got that. We got that right there on your desk. Thank you so much for the conversation.